What's up and welcome back. Thanks for choosing my channel and subscribing and doing all that good stuff. I love you. This is my 40 for 40 review. What that means to you is I'm turning 40 this year and I'm going back through and watching 40 of my favorite films of all time. Not necessarily my top 40 because all these films have to have audio description so that, because I'm a blind film critic, so that other blind people can actually watch them with me. And today we're going to talk about WALL-E, which is on Disney Plus with audio description. I love WALL-E. I love WALL-E a lot. WALL-E is one of those films that, for me, with audio description, I appreciate it. I think we made a nice effort. This is not my first time watching WALL-E with audio description. I will say that. I tried, when Disney Plus came out and I had access to all this content. WALL-E used to be a comfort film for me. There was nothing that I loved more than watching these two robots fall in love and have this silly relationship and all of the by and large stuff up in space just, all the crap that we left on Earth. This film has so much to say. Even the fact that there's like this little robotic cockroach that Wally's and has as a pet, it's just, it predates I Am Groot. We had Guardians of the Galaxy, and everybody fell in love with Groot, who basically all he says is I am Groot. And then we fell in love with two characters who basically all they could do is say each other's names. That was it. Like, all WALL-E ever says is Wally or Eva. Eva. And then Eva, Wally? It is so adorable. And the first time I saw this film, I cried. That scene where, spoilers, by the way, because this film's been out since 2008, so moratorium is over. That scene where Wally, at the end, can't remember, they sit in it. You know what I'm saying? They do what Frozen refused to do, which they almost had. They almost had a moment in Frozen. Had they left Anna frozen for just a little while longer. This is totally off topic, but there was a girl that wrote, right when the film came out, she wrote she understood the same problem that I had with Frozen, and she wrote, "Do you want to build a snowman reprise?" and recorded it and put it up on YouTube. And it was beautiful, it was gorgeous. It was exactly what the film needed in that moment. It would have taken Frozen to a Best Picture nomination, in my opinion, because it was giving that to Elsa and letting Anna stay frozen long enough that it actually felt like this is how the story ends, is that Anna gave up her life to save Elsa. And WALL-E, because remember, these are the people that, they have not strayed away from killing off characters. That beginning of Finding Nemo, we talk about the beginning of Up, but we had already had the beginning of Finding Nemo, where Marlin comes home and his wife is gone and all the other eggs, and then it's just Nemo. And that was devastating to a lot of people back in the day. That was like the Bambi ending. So it's not that Disney, it can't pull off and isn't willing to stick to tragic moments and tragic endings, that Eva was willing to save Wally at the expense of him having his memory erased. And the idea and sitting in that moment and actually watching him, and he starts compacting his own stuff, like his little treasures that he had kept as he developed a personality. And I remember seeing that for the very first time, and I cried. And every successive time I watched it, when you watch the whole film sort of move to that point, you cry. And the test of why I know that the audio description doesn't do that for me anymore is I feel nothing at that moment. It has a lot to do with the fact that these robots are incredibly expressive and that Pixar did an amazing job with them. But without being able to see their faces, without being able to actually see Wall-E's incredibly expressive face, which the audio description really does try. It tries to make the effort, but the magic is lost. It just isn't there. And to see that face just kind of go blank, and to go back and to see this robot just who had so much personality and life to him, to go back to just being sort of sturdy and stiff, and this is my job and I'm going to do it. It's heartbreaking. And watching Eve, who had just kind of warmed up to the idea of Wall-E. You know, I mean, she did what she had to do. She saved Wall-E, but at what cost? And you sit there for a while. I mean, he's cleaning for a while, and she's trying, and she takes his hand, and the music is playing in the background, and it takes a few minutes for him to come back, and that kind of emotional weight. They used it in Up, which was the film that followed Wall-E. There's a lot of little moments in Up that are taken for granted, but they are really good. This is really the height of Pixar. Wall-E and Up is probably the 1-2 combination of when Pixar was making the best movies that they had ever made. I think they've definitely got some classics, but when you're talking about storytelling and incorporating filmmaking and attention to detail and asking audiences to invest in a story and characters, and making films that would possibly appeal to kids but really also spoke to adults. At the heart of Wall-E, we have a love story. At the heart of Wall-E, it's an adorable love story between these two people who can just say each other's names. Andrew Stanton did a fantastic job with this, and the film also has quite a bit to say about what we're doing to our planet Earth, and how our future might look if we keep heading in the direction in which we're headed. So, it's very much one of my favorite films of all time. I can't watch it anymore. I watched it again for the purposes of this video, but it broke my heart watching it the first time because I knew that the magic was gone for me. And it was a movie that had never declined in value for me up until that point. I've seen Wall-E easily 10 times. So it was a movie that, all of the little things and carrying around the umbrella, I remember so much of it. And he's so adorable and so expressive, and it just doesn't translate in audio description. For anybody who's seen it, I'm really curious to know from somebody who's blind and has never seen the film what that experience is like. But I can tell you from transitioning, this is the first time where I feel like the audio description, it doesn't close the gap for me. First time I didn't cry was seeing it when I was blind for the first time. So I feel like I lost one of my favorite films, and it's so hard. That's what happens when you have largely nonverbal characters. Really, they have to convey all this emotion with just different ways of saying each other's names. Eva. There's just so many ways that Wall-E can do that, but he finds them. It's so well done. This is one of my favorite films of all time. It still is. I'm so glad I got to see it. I'm so glad that it's a part of my film repertoire. And I've recommended this to people. I always put it right at the top of my list. Toy Story 2 means a lot to me as well. That's another film from way back in the day. And it's when people ask me what my favorite Pixar film is, I'm like, I don't know, Toy Story, Wall-E, one of those two, tied. I can't, and then Up is like right behind. So it's so hard to pick between those films. And this is the kind of thing that Pixar needs. They need to find the magic that they had with WALL-E and Up, and bring that back, because it was beautiful, and they told the right stories in the right way, and created real magic. And WALL-E is often credited as being one of the reasons why we went to 10 Oscar nominees, because that year, The Dark Knight and WALL-E were both massive box office successes. They had huge critical backing. Neither of them managed a Best Picture nomination. And a lot of people felt like that was, unfair. It just went to show how the Academy is out of touch, because yes, those two films are going to stand the test of time against a lot of other films that the Academy tends to nominate that we tend to forget about. There are a lot of films that, yeah, they seem good in the moment, but 20 years down the line, you look back at it and you're like, what is that? What film is that? I don't even remember that. There are films that I look back in the 90s when I was alive, and I'm like, I don't even know what film that is. So, yeah, it's so weird. But then there are other films that have totally stood the test of time, and we talk about them now like they're these enduring classics, and Oscars just ignored them. Shawshank Redemption is such a great example of that. And WALL-E it should have been a film that got the Best Picture nomination. Of course, they expanded the nominations, and then the next year, lo and behold, look what got one, Up. So it worked. And the second Pixar film that was also following the same sort of idea ended up getting one too. Anyway, while it's a beautiful film, the audio description for me doesn't hold up, but it's from my perspective. It's from my perspective only, coming from, I used to be able to see. I was able to see this movie. I'd seen this movie a lot. I own it on Blu-ray. I realized there's a little certain something that's missing, and there's a little spark. And it's these nonverbal characters, and not being able to see them, and not being able to see all of the little quirky things that they do, that make them adorable, and that make this relationship so adorable. It's almost like it's a silent film. It's not, because it has these humans that talk so much, but with the robots so limited in communication as to what they can actually say, it really feels pretty damn close to a silent film, and it takes so much advantage of that. And there's so many moments when WALL-E he's just doing so many different things, and he just finds these interesting things in the garbage, and he just collects them, and he loves the music. It's like, I think it's Hello Dolly that the movie music is from. And yeah, it's just, it'll always be one of my favorite films of all time. I just don't know how many more times I'm going to allow myself to watch it, because it just actually makes me sad now. Like the existence of me not being able to have that experience anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and give WALL-E an A+, because I would have always given WALL-E an A+, and it deserves it. But this is the most depressing 40 for 40, because I knew this one was going to hurt. I wanted to review a Pixar film, and even though I had already seen WALL-E with audio description, and I knew what the end result was going to be for myself, I watched it again, and I wanted to be able to talk about it fresh. And that is, sadly, that's the result. But I do think this is possibly the best thing Pixar's ever made. So, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And I like to talk about audio description and the experience from being blind and being somebody who could see once and now cannot. And reviewing the films and reminding Hollywood that we still watch films. I still watch a ton of films. And I need audio description to be able to do that. So I couldn't even imagine watching this film without audio description at all. I mean, it's just, it would just be, at least I know where they're moving to, Anyway, but thanks for watching. I have a website, macmovieguy.com. You can follow me on Instagram or Twitter, Mac the Movie Guy. Go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org, and it'll let you know what is audio description, where you can watch it. And go to the ADNA.org, that's the ADNA.org, and you can search your favorite movies and television shows and find out who is narrating them. That's it for me today. I will review something else and see you guys on the other side.